It seems like the legacy of our great racial reckoning from 2020 is slowly falling apart. The latest thing that has happened is that the gigantic Black Lives Matter mural painted on 16th Street, right near the White House in Washington, D.C., is about to be painted over. Let's go to this quick clip of Trump speaking at his congressional address last night, talking about what is happening to woke in the United States.
We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across the entire federal government and indeed the private sector and our military.
She was about to cry.
And
Immediately
our
cut to the
country
DEI highlight.
will be woke no longer.
Stephen Johnson's such a dork.
We believe that whether you are a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, or an air traffic controller, you should be hired and promoted based on skill and competence, not race or gender.
And such language would be unthinkable under the previous administration, obviously. But we like to forget what happened to us in 2020, how insane the world went. But do you guys remember what that was like, right?
Of course, I remember, dude, in L.A., groups of people, not just black people, groups of black, Hispanic, white people, groups, were going up to people that were eating and they were making them say, Black Lives Matter, kiss my foot. And bro, I was dying to be put in a situation like that because it never happened in LA. I wish somebody in a mob was trying to force me to do anything. They would have met their maker. Because you know what? One or two people, you can fight them off. When it comes to a group like that, they can kill you. It wouldn't have happened with me.
See, you got to watch what you say because you're white passing when people don't know you're Middle Eastern.
So
it's
that moment,
racist white comedian Vincent O'Shaughnessy.
They would have found out. They would have effed around and found out really quick who the fuck I was.
It's funny. I would have loved every fear hides a wish. I'm scared that I would love for it to happen, and just to see how I'd react. But you guys remember this headline from the New York Times? This is 2020 Summer of Love. Are protests dangerous? What experts say may depend on who's protesting what. That was when they wanted to justify BLM protests,
of course,
during COVID lockdowns.
Wait,
I remember
this
that.
Mostly peaceful protest
That's
times as well, with the headline
fiery.
mostly peaceful protest with
fiery but
flames
mostly
behind
peaceful.
them,
Fiery but mostly peaceful is the
You
best
remember
headline.
how insane the world went after the death, and I say death, not murder, because George Floyd was not murdered. He died of a drug overdose that was self-induced. You remember how insane the world went. Funny how at a time when everyone was forced to leave the house wearing a mask, we had a massive uptick in violence on the street as people seized the opportunity to conceal their identity and go burn down buildings, loot stores, and in a few instances murder people. But that's apparently not really that big a deal, and we should commemorate that by painting things like this. BLM Plaza, a 2-block mural in Washington, D.C. There are many other murals like this around the country. But over the course of 2 city blocks, these letters are 35 feet tall, crossing the street, saying Black Lives Matter. There used to be a defund the police thing painted next to it, but they got rid of that, because defund the police fell out of political favor long before Black Lives Matter did. This is D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser attending the opening of that in 2020, if we can roll this clip. So you see everybody masked up, everybody joyfully celebrating.
He just took his mask off there, the guy in the purple shirt.
Yeah.
Cloth mask. Outdoors.
You see, those are people, clearly members of the clergy, local officials. And I have to bring this up because I hate Muriel Bowser with like a personal animosity. And I don't usually say that about members of politics and, public figures in the country. But the reason I hate Muriel Bowser is because my brother was in the National Guard at the time, and his unit was deployed to Florida. Muriel Bowser did not like the fact that National Guardsmen were in the Capitol to protect the people from, giant rioters who were burning down whole city blocks. So she went on TV and said, hey, I don't want them here. Go protest them. Here's the hotels where they're staying. So for a couple weeks, guys in the National Guard were, ordering pizzas and food and whatever, and getting pizzas covered in broken glass and spit. There were mobs marching towards the hotel, and they had to have them on standby in case, somebody tried to break into the hotel that they were staying at. So this woman kind of went out of her way to endanger the life of a member of my family. So, Muriel Bowser, I hate you, and I lament the fact that you continue being elected.
Good.
But turns out BLM Plaza might actually be on its way out, thanks to House Republicans who are keeping with the Trump agenda of getting rid of all this woke nonsense that is painted everywhere. There was just a bill introduced by a representative from Georgia that says unless Muriel Bowser and the rest of the DC government get rid of that monument and several other things and rename BLM Plaza to Liberty Plaza, there will be a huge chunk of federal money withheld. So basically, no highway repairs, no street maintenance until you change the name. And Muriel Bowser's going with it. She put out this statement just 2 days ago on the evolution of Black Lives Matter Plaza. See, it's not being erased. It's not going away. It's evolving into something else. We've long considered Black Lives Matter Plaza's evolution, and the plaza will be a part of DC America's 250 mural project, where we will invite students and artists to create new murals across all 8 wards. Basically, what they're saying is, we'll get rid of it. It won't say Black Lives Matter anymore, and we'll invite school children to come up with a new mural to put there.
White people suck.
Yeah. Representative James Comer said this in an exclusive interview with the New York Post. The House Oversight Committee and the Trump administration are working on delivering a number of reforms to make our nation's capital safe and end left-wing pet projects. This includes addressing partisan abuses by the district government, such as the Black Lives Matter Plaza. So this was called out specifically.
He should have moved to call it All Lives Matter Plaza. I mean, have that put on the floor and see the meltdown that causes. Who could object to Liberty Plaza? Everybody loves Liberty.
Yeah, well, not everybody.
This should have happened. When were they discovered that they were actually funneling all of the money that was being donated to Black Lives Matter?
No,
did she buy mansions?
Just a few million.
It was not way over. It was ahead of the 2020 election. In 2020,
she was stealing, she was taking all the money, giving it to her brother.
That's Patrice Cullors for her real estate investment. I think what Amy was referencing was the Act Blue charity funneling thing, if you remember that. Act Blue, that is the primary fundraising arm for the Democratic Party, where they found out that all the money that was going to BLM during the George Floyd riots was being redirected to Act Blue, which was then being funneled into the Biden and Sanders campaigns, because those were the candidates that had promised to do the most for social justice causes.
Yeah, funneled back to so many different trans causes as well. Yeah.
And it turns out that Muriel Bowser is now willing to get rid of BLM Plaza. Could you have imagined any point somebody saying, no, let's paint over that Black Lives Matter mural on the street? There are people who, even as recently as last year, were going to jail for leaving skid marks on pride flags in crosswalks.
It happened here locally. I remember there were some guys that they were looking, I believe it was in like Boca Raton, where they had painted the gay pride flag on the street, and they were looking for a guy that took his big truck and did donuts on it and left tire marks all over it. That was a hate crime.
Yeah, well, that's to the extent they're only going after them for reckless driving, that would make sense. But if they add on the hate crime,
they tacked on.
No, I know, I remember that one.
Hate crime things as well. So they're now evolving the plaza by having school children do something else, and this is an interesting thing to discuss. Of, why are we conservatives suddenly okay with tearing down and painting over monuments and public art? Aren't we, the side that tries to preserve these things? And obviously it's not a valid comparison, because this is not the same thing as defacing a statue of Christopher Columbus or decapitating and vandalizing a statue of Frederick Douglass, which you'll remember.
Black abolitionist.
Yeah, black abolitionist. But they chopped the head off and threw it into the river because they didn't actually know who Frederick Douglass was, because these were just idiots out looking to cause problems, not real people protesting on behalf of actual social justice causes that matter. But like we queued up earlier, the other big thing that's showing that Black Lives Matter is not even a relevant point anymore is, as we talked about, Derek Chauvin pardon, potentially. Ben Shapiro just put out a video yesterday calling for Trump to pardon Derek Chauvin, the officer who knelt on the upper back, not neck, upper back of George Floyd for 9 minutes prior to him dying. So we got into our thoughts a little bit before, but let's re-elaborate, especially for when they clip this and we don't have the context from before. What do you guys think about the potential of pardoning former officer Derek Chauvin?
I think it's like, and listen, I was one, bro, and Rob, you remember this. I got the toxicology report, and I'm not going to say which big organization, news organization. I get a message from Rob and somebody higher up in our company, and they're like, where did you get, because I posted the toxicology and everything that was in it, and the fentanyl level was like 11 point. Dude, it was, mind you, 2 of my friends died from doing a bump, which was, it was like a small, they're dead, one of their girlfriends dead, the other girl, her legs didn't work allegedly, whatever. I don't know the full story on her. I don't believe her. But I lost 2 very, very close friends because of this bump. This guy had enough, like I said, to kill everybody in here, everybody in our studio, the majority of you guys at home. Just a little bump of it. He had so much of it, but I think pardoning. Let me go back. Number 1, this guy George Floyd, because I have to do just quick context before because it's a 2-minute warning. If he wasn't a piece of shit, if George Floyd wasn't a scumbag, drug-using, high loser, shooting porn, trying to use a counterfeit $20 bill to buy something at this liquor store or gas station or whatever, you never would have met Derek Chauvin. Never. Your paths never would have crossed. He's a scumbag, okay, number 1. And by the way, he was a part of an armed robbery. Did you know that? Where him and his boys did an armed robbery at a girl's house, and he held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. All right, while they robbed the house. So don't give me that crying shit about him. Now back to the drugs and all that stuff. It looked bad, and obviously they made it look way, way worse because of no subtext. They didn't show the body cam till later on. Pardoning him right now is the worst idea to do. Because I'm telling you right now, remember that thing that I'm talking about, something bad that's going to happen? George Soros is going to put up the fucking burn down the city Batman signal, and it's, bro, Antifa's activated, the BLM's activated, regular people that weren't a part of it, that were supporting it, it would get ugly, and it would get ugly really, really fast.
So wait, is your argument now that because of the threat of leftist violence, an innocent man should remain in prison?
I wouldn't say innocent. If a retrial, have them do a retrial, because if there's evidence, have them do the evidence and have it shown to the public. But just, bro, this would destroy, this is their goal, is to ruin Trump. That's the goal. Have a retrial, bring forth the evidence, and have the court do it. Have them, if Trump wants to get involved, and I'll let you go, Amy, I want to see the evidence, because it's there, right, Connor? I want to show me, because the proof is there. He didn't die of asphyxiation. He died because of the drugs, and his heart stopped.
I just wanted to ask Viva, because you mentioned something before, and I guess I'm not aware of this. You said that even if he was pardoned, he wouldn't necessarily be taken out of jail. Could you explain what you meant by that?
I'm trying to think. I have to refresh my memory.
I have the stats on his charges, which is why the pardon wouldn't work while you look that up.
Yeah, well, no,
wouldn't work.
because there's tax issues that he's going away for a very long time on that he wouldn't get pardoned for, because he was overall also a little POS himself. Chauvin, like he was not a very good. Like, he had a bit of a track record as a bad
There's
cop.
also federal and state charges. Trump can only pardon him on federal charges. He pled guilty to a civil rights violation during the Floyd arrest.
At the state level?
And that's
the
at the federal
one.
level. So that's the only thing Trump can pardon him on. The second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and manslaughter charge, for which he is currently incarcerated, those are state charges. Trump can't actually do anything about that. The only way for him to be pardoned on those charges would be for the governor of Minnesota to give him a pardon. The governor of Minnesota is Tim Walz.
Yeah, you think?
So that's never going to happen.
Yeah, Tim ain't doing that.
So right now, Chauvin is in a federal penitentiary in Texas, minimum security. If he is pardoned on the federal charges, he would be transferred to a state facility, likely much higher security, which is almost a guaranteed death sentence.
Oh, wow. It would make it worse. It would literally make it worse.
They already tried to kill him once, didn't they?
Yeah.
They stabbed him repeatedly. Do you remember what the excuse was for why Chauvin didn't die from the elevated amounts of fentanyl in his body?
You mean George Floyd?
George Floyd, I'm sorry.
Why?
They said because he was a habitual drug user, so he had
tolerance.
built up a tolerance.
He had a high tolerance.
And so, I mean, look, I was one of the ones who initially thought Chauvin was guilty of murder. I saw the video, and I saw enough of the video. Like, it wasn't just a reflexive thing. I watched the entire trial, and I came away saying, yeah, they should probably acquit him because there's reasonable doubt as to causality. Yeah. And they didn't, because it was a lynch mob in that case.
The president of the United States, prior to the verdict, said, I hope the jury makes the right decision. Yeah. And from the highest levels of the country, pressure was being applied to the jury. After the case was concluded, we found out one member of the jury was a BLM activist who lied his way onto the jury, who lied through jury selection.
Straight up runaway jury. And then the expert in that case, at his former residence, there was a severed pig's head that just magically appeared on the front steps. He didn't live there anymore. There was witness intimidation. The whole trial was messed. But I think there was reasonable doubt as to causality itself. And but anyways, that's the thing, is even if he gets pardoned, he's still in jail for a very long time. It's a stupid thing to suggest. There's still no market on Calci for a Chauvin pardon, or at least within the first 100 days. So I don't think it's going to happen.
Unfortunately, that seems like a very remote possibility. If it did happen, it would open up a whole new can of worms politically. But on the bright side, at least this sort of means that nobody cares about BLM anymore. So, let's paint over the murals. Maybe someday we'll be able to knock down the golden statues of George Floyd that are up all over the country.
They used up a lot of their goodwill when they celebrated the parachuters going into Israel on October 7th. So that corruption, criminality, it's basically a terrorist organization. Nobody gives a sweet bugger all about it anymore. So good riddance.
So good riddance.
Sweet what?
Good
bugger all.
Bugger all.
I've never heard that. Have you guys
never heard that? Of course.
First time.
It does not. I once looked it up to see if it had any old English behavior
Must
to
be
it.
Australian Commonwealth. It must be a Commonwealth thing.
Yes,
I've
did you
heard
ever
of
hear that
plenty of
before?
times.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, it's
bugger all.
Buggerall.
Bugger all.
So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.